It is a house teeming with stickers, noise, and Venezuelans. What a week of action for the IEBC. And they say it all ends well after all, with Chairman Chebukati shaking hands with Police Inspector General Mutyambai. 11 questions with 11 days to the elections. And on the campaign trail, President Uhuru Kenyatta is back with a bang, pushing strongly against his deputy, William Ruto, a former friend he now describes as unprepared and untruthful. With the campaigns entering the home stretch, we look ahead to the next 11 days of political frenzy. And we also look back at the presidential debates staged in Nairobi earlier this week. A 50% attendance and a 50% no-show. But the show went on. On my take tonight, there is some good in that laser-guided missile fired by the Salaries Commission in the direction of Parliament. On Gashuri's Punchline, it is the second installment of a series of counseling sessions for election losers. And on Kaikai's Kicker, the murder of IEBC technology manager Chris Msando clocked its 5th anniversary today, lest we forget. It's kickoff time here on The Gang.
With regard to investigation revolving around electoral stickers recently imported into the country, I wished to inform Kenyans that the matter has been resolved.
The issues about the stickers, as the IG has said, that has been resolved. The issue is settled. And going forward, we have committed to work together. And if there's any issue, we shall discuss as the National Police and as the Commission any issue affecting elections.
So that was this week. They kissed and made up. Before we get to that, just the memo tonight is that Jamila Mohammed is away, but hopefully she'll be back with us next week. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. So what happened? They were writing some pretty strong statements against each other. Tonight, yeah, all is well. It's been resolved, but we still don't know how. Before we get to today, Francis, where did this begin? A bunch of foreigners in the country?
Yeah, but it's yet another very ugly situation, totally impossible to think about and extremely unnecessary, especially when we have an election in 11 days. This is the time when all bodies, all operators, all players in this electoral process should be exhibiting their sense of readiness, their sense of ability to conduct this election, you know, assuring Kenyans, assuring the electorate, assuring even the international community, all players that we are ready and raring to go. What we saw last weekend and a few days last week was totally unnecessary. And this is the genesis. You see, when that one Venezuelan arrived in the country, and we got a statement from IEBC at that point that somebody had been arrested. Actually, at that point, the impression that was created was that an IEBC officer or member of staff had been arrested at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and key electoral material confiscated. Of course, that was bound to raise alarm. Who is this officer? What electoral materials have been confiscated and why? And more so when we were told that it was a foreigner. And the police at that time told us that the foreigner got into the country unknown, undeclared, and was actually carrying critical electoral material in his bag as part of luggage. I mean, this is an institution that has been dealing with trust issues. This is a hotly contested election, not just at the presidential level, but even in other levels. And so when such a statement comes through, and IEBC, the police confirmed that actually we have arrested a foreigner with electoral material, and we've had sentiments of there is a plan to rig. then it was bound to raise very serious concerns. And so when that matter came up, the national antennae went up.
Yeah.
And so it's been a series of letters back and forth. And of course, that very long letter from the DCI.
Yeah.
And the accusation was that IEBC is being irresponsible, that IEBC was doing things in an opaque manner. And the rejoinder was the government, the police, particularly the executive, is interfering with the independence and the mandate of the commission. That was not a very nice place to be, especially for a country that is dealing with a very high level of anxiety for an election that is coming up. So, in my opinion, totally unnecessary.
Yeah, and it was high stakes, as you mentioned, you know, with the police or security officials saying one thing and IEBC saying another. Let's listen to Hilary Mutyambai on this issue when it first came out, and it was talking about the materials and how they were not declared. Let's listen.
We wish to assure Kenyans that NPS is and remains committed to partner and support IEBC to conduct and deliver a free, fair, and credible 2022 general election.
There are some people who are going around in a few areas buying IDs from voters. That information we have passed over to the Inspector General of Police, and action will be taken on those individuals who are going around buying IDs from Kenyans who are registered voters. We appeal to Kenyans, please don't sell the ID, don't sell your right, your democratic right and constitutional right to vote.
Okay, so that was them today, now having made peace, apparently. What's interesting, Linus, is nothing in that statement that was released by, you know, both officials today said anything about how exactly the issue was resolved. What happened to those Venezuelans? Are they still being detained? What about the material that was confiscated? You know, how exactly this was resolved, we're still not clear about that. And here we are yet again.
And maybe this is the way it should be resolved, behind closed doors. We don't need to see all the drama. We don't need to be taken through the back and forth. I think the last 1 week has been quite an embarrassing scenario where you have the IEBC, the DCI, the police, the politicians. It's been really a rather chaotic kind of show that is not very good, coming as it does very few days to the election. What ordinary Kenyans want to see right now is calm nerves that are very, very stable. We don't need drama. We don't need uncertainty, as demonstrated by some of these things that we've seen in the last few days. We need a more sure-footed IEBC. We need institutions that are working together with evident maturity. And that involves a lot of closed doors. Even though this does not mean that we shouldn't have transparency. There should be transparency. If you are importing election materials, and IEBC has been making a big show of it. I mean, when the ballot papers arrive, the cameras are there, we are live, we receive the boxes, you know, they're normally, it's a consignment of closed things. And we're told those are election materials. The practice should continue. Because if you have different ways of bringing in some of these electoral materials, and even if they are stickers are very, very important. They're about that little label that goes into
the KIMS kits.
The KIMS kits. I mean, what if somebody decided to print their own and carry them in a backpack and start stamping on machines? We are in a very suspicion-laden environment where every movement is so important. When you move, you have to explain. If you're moving this material from point A to point B, let there be transparency. And I think, and I hope that the IEBC learns from this incident that you don't just let some foreigners come with their backpacks and they are carrying electoral materials and then it's not been declared. A very high level of openness is very, very important in the next few weeks as we go to the election. And I think we are here because there was mistrust. People found materials that look like election materials, stickers that look like very, very critical items in the election process in private luggages, and the suspicion was bound to be there.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about, like you say, Lena's communication and doing that in a timely manner and not always looking like they're on the defensive and only responding when, various stakeholders are raising issues. But also, in communication, there's something about, when and how you communicate. For instance, one of those statements from the IEBC came at, was it 1:03 in the morning? And there's just something about it, no matter how well-meaning a statement is, when it comes out, at a certain hour or past 9 p.m., there's just small little things that just create unnecessary, really,
and it suggests
anxiety.
Anger. Like you wrote it before going to bed. You can't sleep. Let me. This has to go.
Pour it all out.
Pour it all out.
Yeah.
I agree with you. The timing also was not conveying confidence. Was not conveying trust.
Yeah.
It was conveying more suspicion. What is a statement coming out at 1:03 a.m.? I know, Francis, you're up, but I mean, a majority of Kenyans were asleep.
That's right. And, once this was done, and today they've, made peace, perhaps as it should be, and it was really refreshing, I think, to see the two of them. Not, everything is well, we have resolved this. That's the sort of, calm sort of confidence we need to see from them. But then there's also another issue that IEBC has to deal with, and these are questions regarding Forms 34B and 34A.
Maybe even before you go there, Yvonne, you see, there's also the optics part of it. I took note of certain, maybe I was overthinking, but I took note of the optics. I mean, here are two parties that have really quarreled over the last 3 days or so, and accusations and counter-accusations, and then the meeting is held at the Inspector General's office, the very same office that the IEBC commissioners and the chairman have been accusing of, micromanaging and trying to interfere with the mandate of the commission. Probably one would have thought it would have been in a more neutral environment. I hope I'm not overreacting or overthinking or reading too much in probably something that is not there. But the optics didn't sit very right with me. Maybe, why not at the Bomas of Kenya? Why not? Because presidential candidates, for example, have met IEBC at a neutral place. And tomorrow, for example, they will be meeting the same IEBC commissioners at Bomas of Kenya. Maybe a more neutral venue would have sent a different message, but be it as it may, hope this matter is resolved, and it is not until further notice or until the next quarrel.
Until the next quarrel, or So, so this one, the next one, maybe is not such a quarrel as this other one has been, and that is the Forms 34B and 34A. And on this one, it would seem that, both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio are sort of on the same page and raising similar concerns on this. Just very quickly, before we listen to Boya Molu, so what is the issue with the printing of these very critical forms for transmitting or taking down the results after counting?
I think this is the second time that the Azimio team and the Kenya Kwanza team are closing ranks on a particular issue relating to this election.
What's the issue?
First, remember the 3 IEBC commissioners, together with representatives of the presidential candidates and even the observers and the religious council, sent a delegation to Greece, Athens, Greece, the printing plant of Lycos, where they went to witness the printing of the ballot papers. And while there, the Azimio team as well as the Kenya Kwanza team raised issues on 2 booklets for Form 34A. Form 34A is the document that is used to record presidential election results at the polling station. And so they were raising issues. Ordinarily, it is 1 booklet. So they were questioning why 2 booklets this time. And secondly, they were saying they didn't see among the listed documents for printing Form 34B. So yesterday, Paul Mwangi, the chief legal advisor for Raila Odinga, the Azimio presidential candidate, wrote a letter to IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati. Similarly, Veronica Maina, the secretary general of UDA, wrote a similar letter, and actually they quoted each other. Mwangi quoted Veronica, and Veronica quoted Mwangi in her letter. raising questions on why that booklet was being, two booklets were being printed. And their argument is that it is possible to have two documents or two Form 34As emanating from the same polling stations, but registered or tabulated or recorded in a legal document. But today, interestingly, at a forum with the religious leaders, Boya Molu, Commissioner IEBC, took time to explain to the religious leaders what and why two booklets were being printed by IEBC for tabulation of results at the polling station. His argument seemed to make sense to me. I hope it will make sense tomorrow to the candidates or their representatives at the Bomas of Kenya, or maybe they have more reasons why they have raised those questions, and probably IEBC will be in a position to answer those questions in a more coherent manner.
Yeah, let's listen to Boya Molu on those two forms, first 34B and then 34A.
Form 34A, there's allegation that we are printing two books. Yes, it is true, we are printing two books, and there's a reason, and stakeholders are aware, political parties are aware. One book has only 6 copies of result forms, which are carbonated. You only write the one on top, the rest duplicate. It's carbonated. Form 34B goes to the constituency tallying centers. They don't go to the polling stations. So they are packed. They are printed and packed separately, again, constituency specific, so that as they are dispatched only to 291 points. 290 constituencies, and then the diaspora returning officer who sits in Nairobi also has his copies as he receives the return result. The allegation is that we have not printed Form 34B. This is question raised out of ignorance. What is printed and packed to polling station is all other materials, ballot paper, result forms, polling station diary. All those things are printed and packed together, polling station specific, from the factory. So that when it comes, it just goes directly to the constituency, then the constituency give it to presiding officers.
Linus, you'll agree this is why, precise and consistent communication is important, because these are now very technical questions that are coming up, and requiring just daily, perhaps timely, communication from the Commission, just so that all stakeholders feel satisfied with the lead up to the election.
Yes, very clear and precise communication, devoid of words like ignorance. There isn't ignorance, there is suspicion, there is mistrust. Ours is a traumatized electoral environment because of the history. Those politicians out there, and I feel them sometimes, regardless which side they belong to, they all have the same fears, because they know very well that it takes small things to change the outcome of elections. I mean, and it's been seen to work before, where you even talk of pre-marked ballot papers or ballot papers that are replaced with the genuine ones. So vigilance is important, and vigilance can sound and look ignorant, as the commissioner there observed, because, there are two books, where is the second one going? That is a basic fear of a political competitor there, because they don't know what are you doing with that. Remember just a few days ago, it was about, you've not printed extra ballots for... You've printed exact ballot papers for per polling station. So if you have 650,
you only have
650.
Right.
IBC again had to explain slowly. And I think IBC should not run out of patience just to explain these things. Tell them, it's fine. We are completely in charge of the process. We mean very well. This is what the second copy means, because it means, the carbon copies will not be clear beyond 6 copies. So you need an extra one that then produces clearer and legible and legible copies. So the IBC has to have the patience to continuously engage these politicians and continuously explain these things. What we need to see in the next 11 days is a display of confidence from the IEBC. We want to see an IEBC that is fully in charge, an IEBC that is very, very clear on what it intends to do. And look, this has happened. I mean, we've hosted here, even on Citizen TV, we've hosted teams from the IEBC demonstrating how the process works in the polling station. And look, they're very knowledgeable people out there. We need to trust our human resources as well. We have people within the IEBC who are highly qualified, very, very knowledgeable in electoral matters. They know how the process works. They explain the process without referring to any written material. And that is the display we would like to see going forward. IEBC should not accept an invitation to get into a wrestling match with politicians. They have to rise above and see them and see these arguments right through, and see them like you would see a children's playground, and you see which one is a bully and which one is not. Yeah. And that is a judgment call they'll need to be making the next few days as they discuss the process they are putting in place for August 9th.
Indeed. So from IEBC back to the campaign trail, just a few more days of campaign left, with the final day being the 6th of August, which is just 48 hours to go to the election. I want us to now go to what we're calling the last push tonight. President Uhuru Kenyatta is back with a bang on the campaign trail. And making a push for the candidate he favors, but also talking about his deputy, former friend, now turned foe. Let's listen to him in this clip.
Kwamba uzee sio ugonjwa, afadhali mzee wa ukweli badala ya mtu mdogo ambaye ako na uongo. Afadhali ukweli badala ya uongo. Because the truth shall always set you free. Hata hawa wengine ni wetu, lakini inaonekana they need time ya kutulia, si ndio? Kuacha matusi, kuacha spidi nyingi, na kujua ya kwamba kazi na ukweli washinda matusi na chuki.
You know, what's interesting about how he, or where and when he makes these political statements, he hasn't actually gone out on the campaign trail and, you know, accompanied Azimio, but he does this during, you know, government functions and, you know, launches whatever he's launching, and then, you know, as the late President Moi used to say, hayo ni yale nimeandikiwa, sasa, you know, goes into freestyle mode. And that's interesting. And even in those statements, then he chooses to make his stand known. Francis?
Yeah, you see, there has been a question as to whether President Uhuru Kenyatta will openly come out and campaign for Azimio presidential candidate in this election, Raila Odinga. No doubt whatsoever that Raila is Uhuru's preferred candidate or preferred successor. He has made no secret about it, and he has been out there openly and stated it. He's also the chairman of the Azimio Coalition Council, and so he has a stake as the chair of the council. The Jubilee Party, whose leader he is a member of the coalition. And so there has been a question as to whether the president will go out there and openly campaign, you know, conduct rallies like we see Raila and the Azimio team do, or like we see the deputy president and the Kenya Kwanza team do. Now we see Wajakoya also on the campaign trail, and so is Mwaura Wahiga. There was a question as to whether President Uhuru Kenyatta will go out there, conduct rallies, you know, roadside or, you know, organized rallies in stadium and campaign for the Azimio candidate. But see, this is what I take note of. There are quite a number of development projects that are due for commissioning or launching. There are also some projects that have awaited a certain level of progress for the president to come and commission them. And so quite a number of them are lined up, specifically close to the general election. See, his tour of Nakuru, 2 days, was about launching projects in Mai Mahiu, in Naivasha, in Nakuru town. It was about launching projects. And while at it, several functions are organized that are also political in nature. So it's a combination of two issues, launch a project, and while at it, campaign for the Azimio team in this election. And there has been a message of continuity that this project that I've launched was established by the government, and if you want more, then the person to succeed me is Raila Odinga. That has been the message out there. And the next 10 days, you will see a lot of it. Sam Gituko, our colleague, has done a story on the schedule. In the next 10 days. There will be Kirigiti Stadium to launch. Actually, even the expressway has not been launched yet, and several other projects. Expect a situation where the president will come out, commission these projects, inaugurate them, and while at it, campaign for the Azimio presidential candidate. But at any given time, he has not mentioned the deputy president by name. But by inference, it leaves no doubt as to who he's talking about. And then also take note of certain messaging that here, I have, like for example, in Nakuru, he didn't seem to say, I have a problem with the deputy president ever becoming president, but only says the question of timing, not now. You know, says when he mellows down, when akitulia. So it tells you a certain story. But for the time being, it is launch a project, while at it, use the opportunity to speak to the people and sell the candidature of Raila Odinga.
Is there a reason that he's not actually going out on the campaign trail, as it were? Is his message still relevant to those, maybe particularly in his central Kenya backyard, or is it just, you know, that it's his turn to leave and so he's, you know, using a different approach?
I think he's restrained by a number of factors. Because there's always the question of, would it be a positive thing for the candidate he's supporting for him to go out on the campaign trail? You see, incumbency comes with a huge burden. It's baggage. Can I call it baggage, actually, rather than a burden? Because it's about your record. If you go out there, then you must be ready to be told a few things that are not very, very interesting about your record. And this is typically the dilemma of presidents that are leaving office. I remember in the US when Bill Clinton was leaving office, and after 8 successful years with a running mate that was like his second brain, Al Gore, and he badly wanted Al Gore to succeed him. But President Clinton had to leave the campaign trail because of the Monica Lewinsky issue and how he was being perceived at a personal level. So he was seen as baggage. He should not campaign for Al Gore. Incumbency comes with those questions. Are you really, do you have a strong legacy to sell out there? And the other dilemma that President Uhuru Kenyatta finds himself in is he is fighting with his deputy of 10 years. And so what that has done is to split the base between Uhuru and William Ruto. And you know it dates as far back as the Tanga versus Kieleweke days, and now UDA versus Jubilee Azimio, which is basically two warring sides. Which is why what President Uhuru Kenyatta has chosen to do, first of all, right now what he's doing is farewell tours. He's leaving office in a short while, so he's going around to meet people and do final projects, typically as exiting presidents do.
Would do, yeah.
Remember President Mwai Kibaki launched a series of projects before he left, including the Greenfields Airport. He actually launched quite a number of them before he left office. And that's what typically Uhuru Kenyatta is doing right now, saying goodbye, laying a foundation stone here. But politically, playing an urban warfare sniper, stay at a high building and take aim at his deputy, William Ruto, without actually looking like you've gone out on an all-out campaign. So it comes out as a comment here and there. And is it effective? Quite effective. What he's been doing is basically to decampaign the deputy president and saying, you guys don't know him as well as I do. Can I tell you something about him? 1, he's not ready. 2, he's not truthful. 3, he needs time to grow and be fit for a role like this one. There's something else that we see him doing in areas that really voted for him, and that includes Nakuru, where he was today. And in areas where he knows very well, the deputy president has a following. His packaging of the message has been one, and you've made reference to that, Francis, one that says, no, I'm not saying he should never be president. All I'm saying is he's not ready.
Not now.
Not now. He's running too fast. He is basically questioning the readiness of William Ruto to be president and telling people, no, hold on. He can be, but anahitaji kutulia kwanza. And take time.
Yeah, and I'd like us to hold on. I want to take a break. We'll come back and talk about now the salvo that Deputy President William Ruto fired back at the president. And also, what is happening on the campaign trails. If you've noticed, one goes, if one goes to Mombasa, the other one goes back to Mombasa, and then this one goes back to Mombasa, and vice versa with all of these. We'll try and dig into what that is and what they're trying to do with such a short time left for the final push of campaigns. So back with that in a moment. This is NewsGan.